Good evening, everyone. It's Anthony, Wall Street Trader. It's 8:59 p.m. Eastern Standard on May 16th, 2021. It's Sunday night. Quickly want to just say this isn't financial advice. This is educational only. What we're about to go through in the next segment is around this release schedule for NuCypher. So please note this was pulled from different locations on the web, primarily on NuCypher's site and CoinMarketCap. But just so you know, nothing's perfect in here. I've transposed what I could to make it cleaner and easier to read along. I also have those links at the bottom of the video so that if you want to do your own due diligence, I strongly recommend you do so if you're interested in knowing more about the release schedule. I'll go into the markets after that, but the Twitter link is below for intraday updates and subscribe button below if you want to get up to date with my latest videos, which I do 2 a day. Okay, so going here, there's 3 things I want to talk about. So the first thing, let's just go through initial supply, inflationary subsidy, and total NU. This is the work. This is kind of the release schedule for NuCypher. It is the release schedule for NuCypher. And what's very well defined is from year 2020 to 2025. So I'm going to focus in on that for now because that's really the bread and butter of what this whole conversation is. So from 2020 to 2025, we will at the end have a 1 billion supply of NuCypher. This 1 billion supply is primarily for things like the initial investments that they needed from the equity and accredited investors to fund their operation and development out of this NuCypher on the blockchain. That's number one. The second major thing was around getting people involved in staking their Ethereum so that they can start building out their network using their, with developers and actually checking and making sure that the test net works well, etc. So they have this giant feedback loop. If anyone's on Discord, you probably get to look and hear what they say. But irrelevant to that, it's just that's kind of like to set up the test net, which is another big component of what they're trying to get done. And then ultimately, at the end of this 5 years, they also will take in 200 million tokens for the purposes of running the network on their own. Now, that's initial supply. The inflationary subsidy is a different story. The inflationary subsidy is purely incentive for people to stake their NuCypher for the purposes of keeping the lights on the network, meaning like all of the staking that you do, it helps the node providers to perform all the operations of proxy re-encryption, all of that stuff that NuCypher does. This NuCypher inflation will be the reward to those folks that take their NuCypher, and basically it's the interest on their NuCypher, basically, as cleanly put as I can make it. But I wouldn't read too much into it. Inflation's a fairly common practice for a lot of cryptocurrencies. So don't be scared by this. When people first look at it, it's like, oh my God, they're going to have 3 times as much on inflation. Well, it doesn't come all at once. It goes through time. Really, for the 1.8 billion, 1.8 billion of this 2.8 billion, the 1.8 billion ends in the 5-year period and then goes slowly. It slowly gets chipped away through time. But there's only after 2026, that 1 billion will, that's all that's left is 1 billion to perpetuity. So in other words, 1 billion will then turn into, say, 900 million. It will eventually reduce down to 0, but through a very, very long time. Not as short and front loaded as this here. So that's important to know especially if you're a long-term holder. And then total NU is just the summation of initial supply and inflation, so that you can see that. And the total is 3.8 billion, but really you're looking at 2.8 billion, and then you multiply it by the market cap right now. So in the first 5 years, we'll have about if we keep the prices, let's just say it's 50 cents for ease of calculation here. If it was 50 cents 5 years from now, 2025, or 4 years from now, 2025, this would be what, $1.4 billion company. So keep that in mind as you're looking at this whole thing. Now, there are two documents over here that you can look at, the release schedule, and then this is kind of talking about their inflation, which is really this piece here. So I've denoted it here as well, and feel free to look at that. Now, if you go to page 3, this talks more about inflation. And I put this together because I have a feeling that people might not have understood everything I was just talking about with inflation, but inflation is fixed for 5 years, 365. This is 360. I don't know why it says 366, but it goes all the way across for 5 years. And then at the end of the 5th year, it then starts to slowly wither away. That 1 billion that we were talking about here, this 1 billion from 2026 and beyond, is what this thing is here. And it's basically that 1 billion is the daily minting figure decays exponentially with a minimum half-life of 2 years. I'm not going to do the math on that, but if you're really mathematical and you want to go crazy with it, go nuts. But I'll put these down at the bottom, and that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Let's go straight into the markets. NuCypher allocation right now, still where we're at, and 20% I'm still in cash. So we'll see how things work out. Today we had real nice downside action on Bitcoin. I was getting kind of excited because NuCypher Bitcoin pair was like 850 all day long, and then Bitcoin's getting closer and closer to my holy land, 41K, which I should hit. Pretty confident that Bitcoin will take that turn back. But let's look at the market. I haven't looked at it in like 10 minutes since I started yapping. So Bitcoin is at 45 right now. NuCypher US dollar, not bad. It's actually, exactly where we thought it would be. Nothing crazy. Again, I'm not reading any price action or patterns on this one anymore. I think the patterns are really driven by this guy, which is the NuCypher Bitcoin pair. Excuse me. Upon further inspection, we have held amazingly well, given a sharp downturn today in Bitcoin. I'm not hyping this up whatsoever. I'm telling you right now, but the fact that this thing has been in this channel with all of the volatility we've seen with Bitcoin, we haven't seen that. Like every time Bitcoin drops sharply, this thing is a typical like drop right off, in a further way down. So if I go over to Bitcoin, look at what happened today. Man, we were right between 43,000 and change it hit. All right. I'm going to call it here, but I'm going to guess that within this week coming up, if I was gambling craps or something like that, I would say, all right, I want like 50%. I would put 100% on the fact. Well, not 100, but if I had one chip to put on, I would stick it all on Bitcoin going down to 41.42. I think it happens this week. I think it has to. I think people just want this over with, to be honest with you. So hopefully we get our way with this. Hopefully Elon comes out and says one other nasty thing and we can get over and on with our lives. Anyway, so there's that. And NuCypher Bitcoin, like I said, looking really, really strong here. It sucks that NuCypher US dollar is down because Bitcoin's down, but I just want to get this over with and so we can move on because corrections are healthy. Corrections are going to happen. The faster they happen, the faster we can start going back up again and feeling good about our investment. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about. Early this week, I'm going to be doing the graph as a separate video for those who are interested. I'll make sure I label these videos properly so everyone can pick and choose what they want to see. And have a good night. I'll see everyone tomorrow. Bye.